The day Dylan saved Shen Yue from paparazzi. The night had been calm until the sharp clicking of cameras began echoing down the narrow street like a restless swarm chasing its prey. Shen Yue had just stepped out from a small late-night cafe tucked in a quiet corner of the city, her coat pulled tightly around her and her eyes scanning the sidewalk for her car. She had not noticed them at first, the figures hiding behind cars, leaning against walls, pretending to check their phones. But as soon as she took 3 steps toward the curb, the flashing lights came alive. Her pace quickened, her breaths uneven. The air felt heavy with the unspoken tension of being hunted. Questions were shouted, some sharp and others dripping with false sweetness, each one designed to break her composure. But she kept walking, holding her head high, the sound of her heels quickening on the pavement. And then, from across the street, a familiar voice cut through the chaos.
Dylan.
He was dressed casually in a dark hoodie and jeans, his cap pulled low, but his stride was purposeful, almost commanding. He crossed the road without hesitation, his eyes locked on her as if nothing else existed. When he reached her side, he didn't say a word, just placed himself firmly between her and the crowd of cameras, blocking their view with his frame. One of the photographers tried to step around, but Dylan moved in sync, shielding Shen Yue as if it were second nature. She could feel the warmth of his presence, a protective barrier in a night that had suddenly turned hostile. His hand brushed against hers, a small gesture that told her without words that she was safe. They moved quickly down the sidewalk, Dylan guiding her with a gentle but steady touch at her back. The shouts grew louder, desperate to catch even the slightest reaction, but Dylan never looked back. His focus was only on getting her out of there. A sleek black car pulled up to the curb, and with one swift motion, Dylan opened the door and ushered Shen Yue inside. The door shut, the chaos dimmed, and for a moment the city outside was silent. Inside the car, Shen Yue could still feel her heart racing, but she caught Dylan's gaze in the dim light. There was no trace of a cold, distant persona he sometimes carried for the public. Instead, there was warmth, concern, and an unspoken question of whether she was truly all right. She smiled faintly, still catching her breath, and whispered a soft thank you. Dylan just shook his head with a small smile, as if saying she didn't need to thank him at all. The car pulled away, leaving the flashing lights behind, and the only sound between them was the quiet hum of the engine. As they drove through the sleeping city, Shen Yue watched him from the corner of her eye. She thought of how rare it was for someone in their world to stand so firmly in a moment of chaos, to face the storm without flinching. Dylan had not done it for the cameras or for a story. He had done it because, in that moment, protecting her mattered more than anything else. Outside, the night returned to its calm state, the streets stretching endlessly ahead of them. Inside, something had shifted. There was a closeness that did not need to be spoken, a bond forged in the unlikeliest of moments. Shen Yue leaned back against her seat, her heart finally steady, and for the first time that night, she felt at peace. What the world would later see were grainy photos of a man shielding a woman from the glare of 100 lenses. What they would never know was the quiet heartbeat between those moments, the unspoken promise that she would never face the storm alone as long as he was there. The next morning, sunlight filtered softly through the curtains, casting a warm glow over the quiet room. Shen Yue sat on the edge of the bed, the night's events replaying in her mind. She felt different, lighter, somehow. The fear and pressure hadn't disappeared, but Dylan's presence had given her a new strength. Dylan was quietly packing a small bag nearby, his movements calm but deliberate. He glanced at her, offering a small smile. "You're stronger than you think." She met his gaze, a genuine smile breaking through. "And I'm grateful that you reminded me." Outside, the city was waking up, unaware of the silent bond that had deepened overnight. Two people, caught in a world of chaos, had found a moment of peace, and perhaps the beginning of something neither had expected. As they stepped out together into the morning light, Shen Yue knew one thing for certain. With Dylan by her side, she was no longer alone. As the sleek black car glided away from the relentless flashing cameras and shouting voices, a fragile quietness settled inside. The city's hum faded into the background, replaced by the soft, steady rhythm of the engine. Shen Yu's heart, which had been pounding wildly just moments before, began to slow, though the adrenaline still tingled faintly beneath her skin. She stared out the window, watching the familiar streets dissolve into the night. The city that once felt suffocating now seemed distant and dreamlike. Yet, it wasn't just the absence of chaos that calmed her, it was Dylan's presence beside her. The way he had shielded her moments ago, his calm yet commanding stance against the intrusive world, felt like a rare, precious gift. Her fingers twitched nervously in her lap. She wasn't used to relying on others, especially not in their world, where vulnerability could be exploited in an instant. And yet, here he was, not just a co-star, not just a distant acquaintance, but someone who had chosen to step into the storm for her. Breaking the silence, her voice was soft, almost hesitant. "Dylan, why did you come? Why risk yourself like that?" Dylan's gaze flickered to her, a flicker of something deeper in his eyes. "Because no one deserves to be hunted, especially not someone like you." His tone was low, sincere. "You shouldn't have to hide, to run, to feel so alone." Shen Yue swallowed hard, her throat tight with emotions she hadn't expected to confront. It's hard to believe that sometimes, that there are people who will actually stand up for you, not just watch from a distance. His jaw tightened, and for a moment, his usual guarded expression softened into something almost vulnerable. "I'm not just watching anymore." The weight of those words hung between them. It was more than protection, more than a gesture for the cameras or the public. It was real. She looked down, blinking back a sudden rush of tears she hadn't realized were threatening to spill. "I've been so tired lately of the pressure, the rumors, the endless eyes. Sometimes I wonder if I'm just a story to them." Dylan's hand moved quietly, reaching out to cover hers. The warmth of his skin was grounding, a lifeline in the storm. "You're not a story. You're not anyone's prey. You're you. And I'm here." The car curved gently along a quiet avenue lined with trees whose shadows danced faintly in the streetlights. Shen Yue took a deep breath, feeling the tightness in her chest loosen, just a little. "I want to believe that. I want to believe people see me beyond the headlines and the flashes." Dylan nodded, his voice steady and sure. "And they will. But you don't have to wait for the world to see it first. Sometimes, it's enough that one person does." She met his eyes again in the rearview mirror, searching for more in the depths of his gaze. There was something unspoken, a promise hovering just beneath the surface, a bond forged not by words, but by actions, by standing firm when everything else threatened to crumble. For a long time, the silence returned, not uncomfortable, but filled with a quiet understanding. Shen Yue rested her head gently against the seat, her thoughts swirling. In this small cocoon of safety, away from the prying eyes and ruthless flashes, she felt something she hadn't felt in a long while: hope. "Do you ever feel trapped by all this?" she asked, nodding toward the window, toward the city that would soon wake with its relentless demands. Dylan's lips pressed into a thin line. "Every day. Fame isn't freedom. It's another kind of cage." His voice was laced with a rare honesty. "But moments like this, when I can protect someone I care about, it makes the struggle worth it." A soft smile tugged at Shen Yue's lips. "It does, doesn't it? To have someone willing to fight the storm with you." He glanced at her, the faintest spark of something tender flickering in his eyes. "You won't have to face it alone. Not now." The car slowed as it approached a quiet building, a safe place Dylan trusted. He parked carefully, turning to face her fully for the first time since the chaos had begun. "Do you want to come inside? Or would you rather I take you straight home?" His voice was gentle, giving her space to choose. Shen Yue hesitated, then nodded softly. I think I want to catch my breath a little more. I don't want to go back to the spotlight just yet." Dylan smiled, that rare, genuine smile that lit up his whole face. "Then let's stay here a while. No cameras, no noise, just quiet." As they stepped out into the night air, the tension seemed to lift further, replaced by a growing warmth between them. The world outside could wait. Tonight, it was just the two of them, two souls finding refuge in each other's strength. In that moment, Shen Yue realized something profound. The chaos, the endless scrutiny, the relentless chase. None of it mattered when someone chose to be your shield, your calm in the storm. Dylan hadn't just saved her from the paparazzi. He had saved a piece of her from breaking completely. And perhaps, in the quiet aftermath of a harrowing night, something new was beginning. A story not of chasing headlines or dodging flashes, but of trust, of protection, and maybe even of something deeper. As the night stretched on, the city's lights dimmed behind them, and in the sanctuary they found, Shen Yue finally allowed herself to hope. Hope that no matter how fierce the storm, she would never face it alone again. The next morning, sunlight filtered softly through the curtains, casting a warm glow over the quiet room. Shen Yue sat on the edge of the bed, the night's events replaying in her mind. She felt different, lighter somehow. The fear and pressure hadn't disappeared, but Dylan's presence had given her a new strength. Dylan was quietly packing a small bag nearby, his movements calm but deliberate. He glanced at her, offering a small smile. "You're stronger than you think." She met his gaze, a genuine smile breaking through. "And I'm grateful that you reminded me." Outside, the city was waking up, unaware of the silent bond that had deepened overnight. Two people, caught in a world of chaos, had found a moment of peace, and perhaps the beginning of something neither had expected. As they stepped out together into the morning light, Shen Yue knew one thing for certain. With Dylan by her side, she was no longer alone. In a world full of flashing cameras and endless noise, sometimes the greatest strength is simply knowing someone will stand by you no matter what. If you felt the strength of Dylan's protection and Shen Yue's courage tonight, hit that like button, share this story with your friends, and don't forget to subscribe for more heartfelt moments behind the scenes of your favorite stars. Comment below. Who else do you think would step up like Dylan? We want to hear your thoughts.